Sex Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka, and I have waited an awful long time to say that. I am so pumped to be here. Hope you guys are excited. Hope you got some tequila ready. Pound shots, do your thing. No one judges around here. Let's talk a little bit about my first guest, Amanda Pasciucco, a certified sex therapist, a licensed marriage and family therapist. We are going to get into the pandemic. What has it done to our sex and dating lives? We're going to talk a little bit about shame, where to find your fellow freaks in your home city or wherever you're going for vacation. There's some talk about furries. There's a mention or two about stepbrother porn. We're going to get into it. Welcome to Sex Party. Enjoy my conversation with Amanda Pasciucco.
This week's conversation.
Amanda Pasciucco, hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Sex Party. You were the first guest. Years from now, they'll look back on this and say, what was that guy's problem? I don't know. Anyway, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for stalking me to get here.
Yeah, I did stalk you.
It was great. And so this is very exciting. I'm so glad to be part of this conversation.
Yeah, you're one of those people that when I was combing the internet, which is a fun place to comb, I was looking for the right I was looking for some good matches that would really and then it was a whole other challenge because I'm not just looking for guests for the show, but I was looking for the first guest for the show. And I had a lot of boxes that needed checking, right? And you checked all of those boxes and then some.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And you're one of those people that I feel like, even though I don't know personally, I feel like I already know you. So, you know.
It feels like the back and forth that we've had on the internet and then on the phone, we're connected enough. This isn't planned.
Right.
However, we have a banter right away, I would say.
Yeah. And I feel like that's perfect to launch this fucking madness into the stratosphere. So yeah. So thanks for being here. And so easy question for you. This is just a softball question. But can you help us? What the fuck is going on? So we've had, we were sort of in a place in 2019 where it felt like we were on the precipice, on the edge of something possibly good happening, sexually. There was a lot of
the Me Too movement,
there was a lot of movement, all of it. Even people who are just hetero norm, whatever, even them being vocal.
But it was changing even. A lot of people who were cis het, it went from 4% of the population to 16% in 5 years. What?
Yeah.
Being openly non-monogamous, that was never a thing in history until real old, back in the day that was allowed.
Right. And it seems like we were on our way to something great and then boom, COVID happens. We kind of panic, retreat. We were obviously everyone, we were locked up for a year and a half and now we're sort of kind of out of it. Not really. We'll talk about it in a couple of months, maybe, but And so I'm not sure if I can go out. I'm not sure if I can, do I wear a mask? Everything is just a mess, right? So all of that being said, we were on our way to something probably great. And then someone threw a bag of grenades in the way, and here we are.
Yes, and it also dropped the veil that kind of people weren't really noticing how bad the hookup culture was getting. How I think it helped in ways. We saw that our supply system is kind of janky, and federal, they don't have actually as much power as I thought. The states actually have power. I think that the veil was lifted for things that we don't usually see
Yeah.
because the world, in my opinion, was put on pause. No one had any distractions. No one was allowed to go to clubs or do anything fun. So we had a lot of time to think and watch and judge and see what was happening. And some people, I think, went to online dating and lost some of their integrity, um, because they're just home by themselves. They're bored. They're not going anywhere. We don't even have to meet. We can kick this COVID can down the road for months. So I was noticing a lot more playing with emotions on social media that was happening. Um, but it doesn't mean that all hope is lost, because we learned new skill sets, I think, too, if that makes sense. A lot of people were spending ridiculous amounts of time, like going grocery shopping and really things that were not helping their lives at all. And now they're much more effective. They understand how to use their phones and technology. I think that that's great. The next layer of this would be emotional growth, and that's a choice. So we can't force intellectual and emotional growth on anyone, unfortunately. So like if people want to learn more, there's opportunity to learn. Everyone has a webinar now.
Yeah.
Everyone has a webinar. You can learn any skill you want on the internet now. I learned how to bathe my freaking cats a few weeks ago. It was crazy. I was like, and this person was in Europe because we can do that. I was talking to, Pornhub in Canada. I was talking to Ocleo in Sweden. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like the world just became much more accessible also.
Yeah.
So that's hopeful too, that we're all in this together, the same shit storm. We all have different boats, different skill sets,
Sure.
but we're at least in one storm. It leveled the playing field. So everyone has the same problem of being stuck at home. And what are you going to do with yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think I kind of want to dive in a little bit more because, you said quite a few things that were really interesting that resonated with me. But it's like, okay, so if we're in a place where we are embracing technology, some people aren't really using it, like you said, for the best. They kind of lost their integrity. Like there's a lot more like ghosting happening. There's a lot more like, what does that really say? If a big, I don't know, like if a tragedy, a pandemic brings out more ghosting in people, right? Again, positives and negatives, but where does that put us in terms of dating, in terms of sex, in terms of casual sex, in terms of hookup or I want to be with you, honesty? Relationships aren't lasting as long all of a sudden, but it happened like that. Talk about all that.
I think it's an opportunity to show that there's something wrong, and then you have a conversation like, oh, I noticed that I'm ghosted. What did I miss? What signals were there that I might have missed? Like it gives us some opportunity to harness things. Also, like a conversation of, hey, we haven't met and it's been 2 months and we've only done Zoom dates. Like the integrity would be me courageously revealing that that's not enough for me and I want to do some creative outdoor corn maze or something.
Right.
It gives new opportunities. Like here's the thing, we all have darkness in us. So it's just how to take that and be like, okay, let me not lead with ghosting, orbiting, using people. And if I am leading with those, do I want to do the work to do better? Because again, effort, it is work to do better. It is work to live as a mature centered adult who's not like, I want what I want when I want it, and uses people as like carcasses along the way. I think many of us have been there. I've been there.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge, that within itself is a huge conversation because I do feel like, I don't know, at least what I've seen across like my personal social media and obviously researching for this show in general, I feel like I've seen a lot of people all of a sudden want relationships, right? Like that maybe didn't before, but then the people that are in relationships that got hit and stuck with someone, they want out. And so it's like this weird
They
sort of
want out or different, in my experience.
Yeah.
They want out or different. They don't want, like, if they had what they wanted, it's probably easier to just make it work. But no one's trying to put in effort. We're like pointing because the binary thing. It's other, other, other. It's never my fault. It's their fault.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes it is, and it's rare, but sometimes it really is their fault. Like 5 to 10% of the time. I think other times people can really work on things and grow together if they originally had a connection that had them move in together. Usually we can find some win-win. It just takes the willingness to ask, how could it work? What else is possible? Because the questions that we ask ourselves really lead to the actions of our lives, like how we think about things. And if we don't think about the fact that we're hooking up and throwing people to the side, there's no
Yeah.
guilt, there's no shame, there's no community connection. It was on an app. So no one in my family is going to shame me for it either, because no one even knew we were dating.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like the apps like definitely give you like anonymity to kind of run around and do whatever. But the apps are like so much trickier than I think people realize. I don't think that like everyone thinks like, oh, you get on and like I had a newly single friend and she had been with her partner for, I don't know, a couple years, and mid-COVID, they broke up, I guess mid-COVID. I don't know where the fuck we even are with it right now. But
Yeah, I was like, time was relative. Yeah.
right. So like a couple months in, she broke up and then was like really excited to try, apps or whatever. And we were talking and she was just kind of like, okay, so I start a profile. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, this is terrible. like people are like disconnecting with me. Like if they don't like what I have to say, whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's cutthroat. It's a really, really cutthroat.
Like what did you think it was? It's not. So again, the grass is greener. Let's like not look at ourselves in the mirror first. Not directing this at your friends if you're listening. It's all of us. We all do this. We, instead of looking in the mirror, looking at what steps I can take to reverse engineer what I got myself into, let me just try the apps. That looks fun. They have great marketing. Look how much fun those people are having on like the Bumble and Tinder ads. So much fun. So someone thinks it's better, they go here, and then they're like, oh, this is terrible. Yeah, it's terrible. Those pictures you choose are really important. What you write matters. Your height freaking matters. Everything matters. And it's like much more difficult than being seen in public in 3D and someone just walking up to you and introducing themselves. It's a lot more difficult. Even you couldn't find me because social media. I mean,
know.
Social media.
Yeah. I felt like you were underground or something or being protected by people, because when I tried to reach out to you for the show, I was like, wait a minute, I've sent a DM twice. I've emailed twice. Like, I was like, what? She's hiding, or like, I was like,
I am very protected. That's true.
That's good though.
You can't call me. You can't reach me by DM. Yeah, it's a privilege. A lot of defense, I guess.
No, that's great. I mean, and I made it through and you're here, so, boom. Yeah, we did it.
Boom. If you, again, effort. People put in effort and then they get results. So
it is. It is. This show is a testament to putting in the effort, people. So if you want something, don't stop. Be a psychopath and don't stop until you get it.
And again, like obviously take inventory of how you're affecting people around you, but Dustin did nothing to negatively affect me. He just kept acting in his integrity of what he wanted. And then like, that's how it happened. So.
Yeah, I wasn't going to change the first guest for nothing. I was like, it's got to be Amanda. It's got to be Amanda. And boom, it's Amanda. Okay. So that being said, what does someone do? Let's say someone is ready to get back out there safely with their masks and they're vaccinated and all that stuff, right? And they've been off the field for a while. They haven't had sex in a long time. They're horny, right? Probably. And they want to go out and they want to meet people. So they're like picking up the apps. They're doing whatever. What should they prepare for? What should they do to like set themselves up for success? Like, what should they know going into it mentally about where the world is and culture is like at the moment with, ever changing with sex and sexuality and dating, and
Can I just
already.
speak to the first part? I mean, obviously, if you're single, you might be horny, but going out dating horny, not my favorite idea. Solo sex and partnered sex are different skill sets. Your solo sex game better be worked on during COVID. We have tons of time to work on solo sex, everybody, because people who aren't orgasming alone are not as like happy. It's just true. Orgasm decreases stress. It increases joy and connection, life expectancy. So masturbation and solo sex is huge for those who are dating and single, because you need those skill sets. And the more you use like the pelvic floor muscles, the more you use, you know, your genitals, it's the better sex you're going to have. So don't
Right.
go out horny. Do not. Don't do that. Don't do that. There's no need. Make love to yourself first. You could
Yeah.
be your best lover, and then you could bring that to other people. But you really need to know how to like press your own buttons so
Sure.
that you can teach people if you really want great sex. So that's the first thing about not going out horny.
Yeah.
Sex matters. Partnered sex is fun. We want partnered sex. We need to have like these discussions though about vaccine status, STIs, like are we going to use condoms? Do we use lube? What would we do if someone gets pregnant? Are we just doing anal so it doesn't matter? Like we need to be asking these questions before we get into sex nowadays. And the COVID questions are part of it now. Are you vaccinated? Are you tested? If not, I know a bunch of people who had sex with masks on before the vaccine was out. I know
Oh
a
God.
ton of people who did masked sex and sex outdoors. Like, people got creative.
Wow. Yeah, that is very creative. It doesn't sound appealing, but I mean, I was definitely at a
To
stage where I'm
someone,
like,
it could be.
yeah, totally, yeah, yeah, good for them. You know what I mean? Because I
Fuck
was at a
it,
stage,
right?
yeah,
Because fuck it.
exactly, fuck it, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like you think, okay, well, what am I gonna do? If you had an opportunity to hook up with somebody during COVID, or you had to answer those questions for yourself first. I know for me, the first time I hooked up with someone during COVID, it was like a bit of anxiety because it was pre-vaccine days. Um,
Yeah. People were
and
scared to
yeah,
have sex,
yeah,
like with someone who
yeah,
didn't live in your house. It was very scary.
yeah, it was kind of creepy. And
Yeah, I just want to like
you,
take a moment to pause with that like creepiness. I was like, yeah, like let's
yeah.
own that. It was weird.
And for me, it was something where it was like this person's coming into town on an airplane. Like, you know what I mean? It's the whole thing. So I was like, okay, by doing this, I'm taking this much risk, and now I feel like since I've been vaccinated, and it seems like most of the people that are around me have, although there are some that are not, right? Like I feel less risky about it, but I'm still like just sort of wondering where this whole shit show like ends up, whatever, which it'll work itself out at some point. But I do.
Yeah, I think it'll work itself out, and I think there's a lot less risk now with those who are
Yeah.
vaccinated, et cetera. Even those who aren't vaccinated, right? Like right now, in a lot of parts, who knows when this is aired, what it will
Right.
be.
Right.
But right now, it's probably staying where it's staying. So it's like
Yeah.
you can make informed decisions, hopefully, for the next few months. Hopefully, there's no,
Uh-huh.
spike up again. That would be
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, people are ready to at least on some part like accept whatever risk there is. If if they've taken the vax and they've done whatever, it's like, okay, well, there's this much
They're
risk.
like, I have to go. I have to
Yeah.
live. I have to live now.
Yeah. So, which is another topic. Well, another piece of the same topic basically is there was a Harvard professor, I think it was like 6 months ago, who said, okay, after the flu pandemic, in 19, was it 1918? The flu?
The
Yeah.
Spanish flu or whatever it
Yeah.
was called.
Yeah. So from 1918 to 1920 everyone was, fucked, like wearing masks. And then 1920 hit and we like went so berserk and like everyone's got pregnant, everyone's having sex or whatever. And so he had written this paper that said when this COVID thing ends, the roaring 20s back then are going to be like a walk in the park compared to what's coming for us. And so with this like stop start thing that we've done as far as sex goes, it almost feels like, is that still coming? Because I would like to be a part of that. But like at the same time, like what is like, so.
It's more like real though, because when you have partnered sex after the first 3 years of being with anyone, single people who turn to coupled people know that after those first 3 years, another Harvard professor, I believe Helen Fisher, said that sex changes. There's a lot of starting, stopping, things happen. So like this is a good preview to what it's like to be in a couple. It's not like porn. It's not like single sex. It's not even like couple sex the first 3 years. Those first 3 years are not like the rest. So I hear what you're saying. Like, is that like on its way? Of course, we all want that. Well, at least I do. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love the
Yeah,
dopamine, the newness,
sure.
the excitement. However, life is really kind of like up and down. And what we've been going through with COVID kind of feels more realistic. Do we know? Do we not know? Um, that anxiety is very close to home right now. And
Right.
there's an anxiety in the dance of coupledom and in families that this mimics in an interesting way. Like stay home or don't, and go out and risk it and have these. It's just like really, really interesting to me. Again, how COVID came in, put us all in the same storm, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like even before that, we touched on it briefly, but even before that, I feel like with the things that were sort of coming into our culture, whether it be on social media or they were entering the conversation, these sexual ideas, and some of them were, a lot of them are coming from porn, like the fucking your stepbrother thing, or like the taboo, like I'm trying to think of another one. Like, a lot of it used to be like boss and secretary, like whatever, but now it's like really sort of like ratcheted up. And I feel like COVID like hit overdrive on that. And I'm
Like it's
really
like we have to go to aliens and mer people and animals now. Right. Like we
yeah.
went a different notch.
Yeah, it definitely, like we were at a 10 already and now we're like maybe like at a 13 or something, but I feel like
There's a new system. So to me, we blew the old system up and we have a chance to rebuild something better because we all kind of went a little bonkers.
yeah.
And like the porn, like you said, it's a 13. Like before it might have been stepbrother. That's old news.
Yeah.
That's boring now.
Yeah, now we're having sex with alien robots or something. Yeah.
Oh, and sex robots, like that's a thing too. Those are coming out too. And there's conferences for artificial sex robots. So, yeah, things are
Yeah.
changing. It's interesting.
Yeah, and they're changing like really, really fast. Can you speak to some of the things that you have noticed sort of in the zeitgeist, in the conversation, like in terms of like taboos, like the stepbrother thing, or like the robots or whatever?
More sex with like silicone surrogates, more sex with
Yeah,
like sex dolls, I would call that. Yeah.
right.
More sex. Um, like the taboo of like stepbrother and stuff, I think that all went out the window because we're
Sure.
all with our families. A lot of people with their families and can only see their family. So like this is not even taboo. It's nothing. I hate my family, right? So I think that's what happened there, why that went out the door. Um, but I think that I would say silicone surrogates, escorting went away
Yeah.
in person, which caused a lot of strain on probably marriages everywhere. Um, so we saw OnlyFans and the porn industry skyrocket,
Mm-hmm.
and like live camming became
Yeah.
huge and accessible to everyone. I had clients who were sex workers that weren't before but could be now because it felt safer to do it online and why not, etc. So I would say that was a huge thing too.
So it sounds like it turned more into a self thing. Like you can handle a lot of these things on your own. Even like uh, the escorting thing, how you said like it was rough on marriages, right? Like you mean when people were using escorts a lot, that marriages would suffer because of that, or what
No,
did?
I meant the exact opposite. So glad you asked. So glad you asked. I meant the exact opposite. So sorry to anyone who was offended by this, how I just said it, but fuck it.
Yeah, no,
So
fuck it.
that keeps many marriages together. That third person, the sacred intimate, like that holds many marriages together. Uh, and to not have a sex worker or a massage, you know,
Friend.
personal masseuse, that whole, like to not have that put a lot of pressure on the partnered sex relationship if there wasn't also a healthy masturbation practice.
Right.
And then like a lot of people caught their partner spending all this money on webcams and live chatting women, and it's like it felt like it was closer to home versus like this person going once a month to an escort. Now it's multiple women different times a week and it's coming out of our bank account. It's not cash.
Yeah. So, okay. So now that we've hit on this, which is, I'm so glad that we did. Can you can you
You're
can
like
you
so glad.
can you talk about the idea that a married couple would make a decision, or a couple? I guess they don't have to be married, but like,
Yeah, I don't have to be married.
right?
Marriage
Yeah,
is old
yeah.
fashioned now
It's
too.
so 2019. Um,
So 2019, Dustin. Ugh.
so okay, so a couple comes to a conclusion that it's better to bring in a third to relieve some of that sexual tension. Is
Let's
this like
just
a?
pause it right
Yeah,
there.
sure.
Why? Why does that happen? Why does that happen? Because in every couple, this is why it happens. It's like very simple. There's always a low desire partner and a high desire partner. In every couple, one person wants sex more and one person wants sex less. So it really depends how much less that person wants sex. What is the less? If it's never, if it's once a year, almost never, like that's when we start talking about adding in a professional sex worker or
Right,
pro dominatrix or something to like come in and assist as like the sexual surrogate.
right.
um because we talk about like what I would do if that's a couple that works with me is I would talk about like what were your vows, because maybe we need to update your vows, or what was the conversation you had before moving in together? Oh, there was none. All right, well, let's have a conversation about monogamy and exclusivity now that one of you doesn't want sex with this one partner. We have to get creative. How could it work? What else is possible? Because the other high desire partner, it's not bad or wrong that they have that need. Like, how do we get it met if you can't and don't want to be that person?
Yeah, that's okay. So that's so
It's
fascinating.
like really honest. Like, we have a very open and frank conversation
Yeah.
about, do you want to be that person? Like, I could teach you the tools if you want to. And if not, sex is not bad nor wrong. So we're not going to shame the high desire partner for wanting partnered sex still.
See, this is why you're here. This is why I'm so glad. This is why I'm so glad that you're here, because this concept right here that we hit on is fascinating to me, because I think in all of my relationships that I sort of like grew up around and whatever are very traditional in the sense that it's like when there is a high value or a high
Desire.
high desire person, and they want sex all the time, I feel like the low desire person will shame the high desire person. And the last thing, as open-minded as they think they
Blame,
are,
denigrate, make fun of,
exactly,
like all
yeah,
these unconsensual things, other than
exactly.
just addressing the need.
Yeah, the last thing that they would do in that situation is work with an escort or a third party to like alleviate some of the need for sex from the high desire. That would never happen. So I'm like, I guess, how common is this practice, would you say?
I would say, I mean, people who are openly out is close to 20%. And I would say that at least half the
Wow.
people that come to me are in these dynamics, at least half. Yeah. Um, and I've been practicing for over a decade. So, and that number
Yeah.
has been about the same since the beginning. Um, so it was that there might have been a silent third. People weren't out about it, but it was still happening.
Right.
People were swinging, like things were still happening because sex is a need and it's not bad or wrong. But when the low desire partner uses shame and denigration and blame, what that starts to do is it actually erodes the intimacy of the emotional connection too, not just the sex connection. So now we have a bigger problem, which could lead to ending the relationship, right? Like a lot of times when people get to me, there's shame, blame, manipulation. Like they have that when they get to me. That's what they're paying me for. They have a bunch of problems. They want pleasure. Fix
Yeah.
it, right? So
Exactly.
um, we have to get rid of the shame and all of that. What they've learned is not bad or wrong, it's just not going to work if they want this to keep going or even want to consciously complete the relationship with integrity. We can't be blaming, shaming, and just taunting and bullying one another. That really doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's the thing is there a point in a relationship where it's just that has been done so much to each other where you're like shaming and blaming and guilting each other
Yes,
so much
you
where
can
it's just
go too
like,
far.
yeah,
You
where
can
it's
go
like
too
the
far.
relationship is toast now. Like what is that
Yeah.
point, and how do they get away
Different
from
for
it?
every couple. Like some people won't even stop at physical violence. Some
Yikes.
people will stop after, one incident. You embarrassed me at my birthday party. That was the end. We had a child. That was the It's really a different trigger to end it for everyone. There's a really short book called Uncoupling. It's very short. It's like a red and purple cover. I don't remember who it's by, but it's a really well done on like when it's actually over, which person, like it speaks to both people, the person who decides to end it and the person who's like, wait, I don't want to end it. Because, right,
Right.
that usually happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It does.
so, and I think it's important because uncoupling is as important, and the integrity in that is as important in the integrity in dating and not ghosting. Same with uncoupling. We need to do all of these things with self authenticity and accountability towards how we're affecting others.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, it really the sex in a relationship, I'm wondering if you could say how important sex is in a relationship, just in general, because again, a lot of shame and blame, and she always just wants sex, or whatever. He always wants sex. Yeah, yeah. It's always like someone like making someone feel like a piece of shit, like constantly. So,
Yeah.
so like from a professional, from you, how important of a piece, how much of a relationship is sex? How important is it?
If we're talking about two people that always had a sexual relationship to begin with, so we're not talking about people who identify as asexual. If we're
Right.
talking about two people who had sex to begin with, it is the only thing that makes you a couple. I don't care if you sleep in the same room. I don't care if you have little things like you pay bills together. Sex defines the coupledom. It is the most important thing. Yes, I am biased. I've built my life around this fact. I'm a sex therapist. And I will just keep saying that forever. It is the most sacred and important part of coupledom. And when you're in an open relationship, you know that that sex and love bond are the most important things when you start sharing with other people. So yeah, sex is so important. And if you've been shamed because you want sex too much, your desire is too high, y'all, there are so many people who want your high sex drive. The porn industry wants it. There are other humans who want it. There are people out there who are hypersexual. We're not talking about like losing your job because you're addicted to sex. We're talking about enjoying sex and not shaming, being sex positive and body positive. Like, I live for that shit. I live for it.
You're
So
in the
it's
right
the most
place.
important.
Yeah.
Right place.
Yeah,
Woohoo!
absolutely. No, that was like the greatest answer ever. And thank you for that, because I think I just wanted to get that on the record right away. So that being
Yeah.
said, when there's two people that are just over it, right? They don't want to break up. They've been having sex, but now they're not, or they're like disgruntled because somebody's like always wants to bang and they don't, and leave me alone and I don't feel great, or whatever. They're having their problems, right?
The trigger tango. Yeah.
Yeah. How important is it to the trigger tango? Yeah, the trigger tango for sure. How important is it for them, if they want to stay together, then to work on, not only work on sex, but be open-minded?
It's also the most important thing to bring to every day, open-mindedness. And let's talk about the sex part specifically. Sex doesn't just happen in the mind, although the brain is the most important part to turn the rest of us on. It's the largest sex organ in the body. Even though that's true, sex is of the body. Sex is not just of the mind, it's of the body. It's energetic, it's intellectual, it's emotional. So, what you need to have if you're one of those couples and you're like, what are we going to do? Not only do you need to be open minded, you need a skill set of how to communicate with one another. Nonviolent communication is a really easy one. Anyone, I think, can understand it. Other than that, though, you need willingness, not willfulness, but willingness. You don't need arousal. You don't need desire to find someone attractive. I know that that sounds crazy, but you actually don't need desire nor arousal. A willingness to be safe, secure, and intimate can jumpstart a spark between two people that used to have a sexual connection. I've seen it happen thousands of times. And that to me is so hopeful that if you have a willingness, you make the time, you set the intention to be open minded, you learned how to speak like to one another with integrity, not shaming and blaming, you can really find your way back to pleasure, because pleasure is a sex is adult play. It's being playful. It's touching the skin. It's massaging the head. It's like noticing that a flaccid penis is still a fun penis. It doesn't matter. It's that the body and like the connection, if we're like in willingness, we will find the pleasure. Set the bar at discovery, not at orgasm, and I promise you'll end up at orgasm.
Yeah, no, that's fucking amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. So now that we've helped the coupled people that are having problems, let's turn our attention to
The
some,
single thing.
yeah, some of these single fucks out here. So I'm gonna give you two different types of single person. They can be any gender you want.
Sure.
And let's try to help them a little bit. So one, let's say someone is today single, maybe all their friends are sort of like coupled up, or their friends are just like dicks or something, not around, and they're like doing their other stuff, or they don't want to leave because they're lazy or COVID or whatever. Who cares, right?
Who, the friends don't want to leave, or the
yeah, the
person?
friends. So this person's totally on their own, we'll say, and they're open to using dating apps, but they're kind of like a high desire, like they have high sexual desire, and they're right at the beginning, the start line. I'm going to get back out there, whatever. How would you advise them to go about finding partners that can, fulfill their needs?
Well, it depends. So they know that they're high desire. Are they looking for just sex though, or relationships? I think that matters.
Um, let's say both, either.
Which did you mean?
I didn't really think about it because I this is
Oh.
like based on like somebody I'm just inventing at the moment.
Oh.
Let's say that they're looking for a partner, but they don't mind having sex in the way with others, finding their partner.
Okay.
Yeah, someone who's like
So
really wants
I
to
would
get out there.
definitely, if they're open to it, just want to being around sex positive people, they're open to it, going to like a BDSM dungeon, a kink party, a swinger party, like doing the sex thing. You could go to places for that to meet people who are high sex desire people. However, if your primary thing is meeting a partner, it's really important to do stuff in your community. You can't just sit at home and expect to find a partner. You have to be out doing things. When I've been single, I've been out, like not on dates, but I'm at meetup groups. I'm doing shit that I don't even like to do
Right.
just to meet people. And I'm not going there on a hiking thing and being like, I love hiking. I hate hiking. But I'll be there and like, I hate this shit, but I wanted to meet some people who liked it, because some people that I know that I like hiking. I don't. So I'm going to be really upfront. But I want to meet these folks. I go to events that are non monogamous events, monogamous, like blind dating events. I'm at everything, but not just one on one dates from online. Like, that's a recipe for failure if you're only doing that one method. You really need to be getting yourself out there in multiple methods. You have no friends. So, like, you can make friends. That's what meetup.com is for, to make
Right.
friends. And I've made friends as an adult. I promise it's really awkward, but you can do it.
Who
It's a
cares?
lot
Yeah,
easier when you
totally.
get to the event. People will like pick you up and find you. If you're
Yeah.
like introverted, just get there. The extroverts will find you. Um, so I think it's really important to be doing things, not just at a bar, being at a store, um, walking through places like a mall, like be available. And during the day, that's my other fun favorite tip for single people. Don't be places at night if you're trying to meet a partner. If you're trying to meet someone to have sex with, awesome. The people in the night, your high desire people, will come out of the dark. But if you're trying to meet a partner, be places in the daytime. Breakfast and lunch. That's the time of day that I've seen the most people meet future partners.
Wow. See, again, you guys, we're getting all of this valuable, amazing knowledge from Amanda. So, wow. Okay,
Yo,
so
I've paid literally so much money, $500,000 to learn this. So you're learning it effectively. This is again why learning is so important. Reading and podcasts, learning things from people who are experts. You get decades into minutes. It's very effective.
yeah. Okay, so to recap that section there, if you're looking to have a bunch of sex and that's really all you're after, nighttime is really your thing. That's your vibe. That's where you're gonna want to go, be a vampire, whatever. Maybe hit up
Find the wolves,
yeah, your local BDSM dungeon. Hit it up,
swinger
right? Swinger party.
parties.
Wait, where are people finding? Is there apps for that? Where are people?
Online, you just type in the city closest to you, or if you don't want to be close to you, the city that's not closest to you, I guess. But if you
Uh,
just type in New York City, Boston, Hartford, San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, Tantra Club, Swinger Club, BDSM Club, Polyamory Club, you're going to find your freaks. And I love those people. Those are my people.
Yeah.
My dad says I hang out with the fringes of society. I love that, because I love the nighttime people.
Yeah, me too.
And I really value partnership too. It's a different skill set. Like
Yeah.
meeting someone for sex is not meeting your future partner.
Oh,
It's a different skill set. Sex can be taught, partnership, not as easy to teach. Um, but that's a life skill set too. So it's much easier to find a partner though during
yeah.
the daytime.
Yeah.
They
That,
have different intentions and goals. The parts that you're going to interact with are who they are societally, not like the vampire part at night.
yeah. Yeah. That's where I was going with it. You know, to cap it off is just, you know, if you're looking just to get laid and have some fun experiences, have some orgasms, give some orgasms for God's sake, right?
Yeah.
Nighttime,
Both and.
dating apps, sure, whatever. If
Cuddle
you're,
parties,
yeah,
kink, just like Google these
right.
things, kink
All the
events,
stuff, right.
polyamory, all of these things. Like there's nothing bad or wrong, and they're around. I promise.
Right.
Even in the Midwest, even in Kansas,
Yeah, for
there are
sure.
these communities.
And then on the flip side of that, if you're looking to find a partner, daytime is your thing, okay? You're a day walker. You might still be a vampire, but you're a day walker, all right? You go to go to meetup.com, find some stuff. It might feel weird. Fuck it, right?
Yeah, like
We're
I
gonna
did weird
use
shit.
yeah,
Do it. Just
you
do
gotta
it.
you gotta get the world is weird, people. So let's get weird.
Life is so awkward. Life is so awkward. So
Yeah,
just put yourself out there and be awkward. It is awkward. Like I promise y'all. And
for
like
sure.
there's so much to do on meetup.com. You could do like dancing, you could do yoga, you could do obstacle courses, archery, you could
Right.
do poetry readings, painting classes. There's a bunch of people you can meet to just have friends or partners.
Yeah, so
Like and
meetup.com,
yeah.
Bumble Premium, you're going to say fuck it a lot. You're going to put the effort forward. That's what you're going to learn. That's what you're going to do. That is Amanda's recommendation for finding a partner or partners that you want to spend time with
Correct.
and
Oh,
invest,
mhm.
whatever. So we've got those two things. So I think a couple questions I want to ask you is being a sex therapist for as long as you have. How long have you been practicing?
I've been a marriage therapist since 2009, sex
Oh, wow.
therapist
Okay.
since 2015.
Okay. Yeah. So a good chunk of time. Probably feels like
Yeah,
100 years to you, actually.
it feels like hundreds of decades. I feel very like a very old soul.
So having done what you've done for that long, how would you say that it's different? Okay. Is it different than what you thought it would be in the beginning? And how has it changed you?
I already forgot the first question.
Um, having
Okay,
done,
so
yeah,
sorry, I just got to be honest.
no, yeah,
Two
no,
questions, I got lost.
yeah, it's a big, and it's
Maybe one at a time. I'm
a
sorry.
big question. Well, yeah, yeah, that was my fault. Having done what you've done for as long as you've done, is it different than what you thought it would be when you started? That's number one.
It's a bit different than what I thought it would be. However, it isn't that systemically different when you're working with people in like the Americas. It's not that systemically different versus now that I work with people internationally, like in China or India, much different. But from the beginning, 2009 to now, with couples and single folks, it's almost similar. However, if we go to different countries, they were taught and raised and enculturated different. So they kind of lead with different issues. And that's something I've grown to learn. They value things in different priorities. They care about family more. It's much more about maybe co-regulation versus self effort and, the individual, like in United States of America.
Yeah, and then the second question: how has it? How is being a marriage and family therapist, but also being a sex therapist, how has it changed you, like in a tangible way? Is there like something you
Yeah,
can point out that's like,
totally.
yeah,
Totally. So before I was a sex therapist, honestly, 3 years ago. So there are different points in my life where I would say I leveled up. Like I learned a skill
yeah,
set and leveled up. And being a marriage therapist, a family therapist, and a sex therapist, what has changed me is working so closely with individuals sharing their soul. The personal is really universal. And if I'm not doing my work, they can only go as deep as I've gone. And if I'm at home using people, blaming and shaming, if I'm denigrating my partner, guess what? I can't teach that skill set. So it's changed me because for my core truths, my values, and my integrity, I need to do the work and be growing, accountable, and contributing daily. Or for me, I cannot show up at work. I'll feel like a hypocrite if I'm not living like openly and showing my cards. It's difficult to get in contact with me because I made it that way, but also because I spend a lot of hours learning and trying to educate myself and then applying it to my own life because I believe that a huge asset of a person who is a mentor or a therapist is that they are learning and growing daily. I had outgrown multiple therapists in my life because I had advanced past what they learned. And my therapist now, it's like she just learned so much. It feels like that also helps change me when I see other therapists also doing the work for their clients to make a better world, is the goal of it, though, right?
sure,
To have more fun, sex, pleasure, connection. Like, fuck yeah, who doesn't want
yeah,
that?
right, yeah, totally. And that's insanely powerful, to be, to do what you do, but also like realize that, I think a lot of people are like have an aversion to going to any form of therapy, let alone sex, because they get this picture in their head where it's like some old guy, some old white dude, right? Like with glasses, it's like looking over his notebook, like at everything you
Behind
say.
his desk, and you're
Yeah,
like, you don't even matter in the room. It's like being
right.
looked down on, is what I'm hearing you
Yeah.
explain.
And he's
The
very
glasses.
bitter. Yeah, he's really bitter because he's done it for 4,700 years or whatever. And it's like, you just feel like, you're being told what to do and the person's not it. So I think like to have someone like you who's not that and who openly says, not only do I have to listen to my clients, but I also have to grow with them. I have to learn with them. That's fucking rock star shit. So I think that's
You
amazing.
got to be a rock star. If you could be anything in life, you
Yeah.
got to also have a rock star part because we can, we're one body,
Yeah.
but we can create like a lot of fun fantasy on the inside. Like we're doing this right now. We're creating a podcast, but we can also create like a wise part of us that doesn't get older and grumpier like that
Yeah.
therapist you just described. Like we get to choose how we grow.
Exactly. And that is one of the most important things I think that people just forget about. That they feel
I
like,
don't think we're taught it though. Do you?
no,
Like,
we're
I
not.
don't
No, we're
remember
not.
that being taught that. I really don't. I remember being taught, listen, be a good girl, be obedient. And those are great skills if you're into kink, I promise. However, I'm thinking like it's really important to be innovative, creative, think beyond the binary and to like have a fantasy of what could happen. Oh, how could it work? What else is possible? How do I go from my end goal? Let me reverse it back to this moment. Like, what steps do I need to take? I don't really think we're taught change. And so, what we're doing here, like in a podcast, what we do online with social media, it can be really important and
Right.
create impact in people's personal lives. And the personal is universal. So then we create a better world too.
Yeah, and that's one of the big reasons why I started this show on this topic. And it's gonna sound cliche, but fuck it, I don't care. I wanted to at least have a conversation that was out there, it was unapologetic, that was on sex, it was on relationships. I'm the least person qualified to do this show, but that's what makes it so much fun, as you'll see. So for me,
Yay!
I wanted people to like maybe hear something, research it more, then they change in turn or whatever. But I also hope that I change coming out of this. So that's what we're doing, people. And
We're changing. We're growing. Change
that's the
isn't always
direction
bad.
that we're headed in. Yeah, be scared and fucking do it
It's
anyway or whatever they
okay.
say. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay.
for sure.
What does courage mean? Courage means to lead with heart. It doesn't mean that we're doing it without fear. It means that we're leading with our heart. So, like, do something courageous, put in effort.
Yeah, and a lot of that's the thing. That's like sort of why I said that too. Is a lot of people are that I talk to in my just day to day life that I'm absorbing the conversation, maybe not saying much back with people that I know. Is that I noticed that there's just a lot of fear, like in terms of people getting what they want from a partner or from life. Like they're afraid to speak up, they're afraid to whatever. And I just feel like I've always been someone who just blurts out whatever they want and like just is very, very straightforward person. My honesty usually gets me in more trouble than I would get in trouble with lying. So whatever, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it because you just kind
It's
of
so
cut
worth
out the
it because,
middle. Yeah, you
yeah,
get
it's
right.
so worth it. There's so many decades of like lies that you cut
Yeah.
out by doing just letting the words flow out. Like, oh, well, it's out there now.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important to dive into some of the stuff that you dive into, like on your you do like weekly YouTube videos, okay?
I do
And
Wednesdays, yeah.
yeah, and they're fucking great. They're like couple minutes. They're pretty straight to the point. Yeah, a couple facts in there,
We got to be fast because I have a short attention
countdowns.
span. Most of my clients do too. We want just effective, quick answers. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also too when we were talking earlier about how like fantasy, at least like well, not only, but like in the porn world, but also like in people's sort of like um, imaginations or sexual, like that things are changing. They're becoming different. So it's like we had the step bro. I'm stuck in the fucking dryer thing happening for a while, which still happening, it's happened forever, whatever. And that led to more of a different kind of porn that's like really popular now. And then there's like obviously this huge push for AI and sex robots and all of that. You mentioned animals. People are like
Yeah.
loving animals. Is that I
People love animals, have sex with animals. It's, becoming more and more common. It's like we're getting back to the primal essence of it all because if you go back to like cave person days, there's pictures of, orgies and people having sex, like same genders, having sex with animals, having sex with trees or the ground. Um, so people have gone pretty primal, I would say. And we're also going futuristic, like we're creating robots to have sex with. Anything, I guess people are becoming more creative with ways to get their needs met and to not, um, you know, take it out on minors. So anything that's not minors, I think is great. We're becoming more
yeah.
and more creative.
So okay, the sex with animals thing is like really making me like okay, like it's really making me I'm super curious, but I'm super like wait, do you so what are we talking? Are we talking like it's very like it's like a fantasy, people are fantasizing about having sex with animals?
I think ranges. So some people will identify as like furries and
Oh
they
yeah, yeah,
have
yeah,
sex
yeah.
as a part of them. But I think that we also go to things like a podcast called Zooier Than Thou um, when we're talking about zoos. So people who are in loving relationships with animals, with a different species. So their number one attraction and emotional connection is with animals. And there are people who also have similar things where their number one attraction is with like a robot or a silicone. Lars and the Real Girl, I think, was made about that. Like, we're just being more open and living with less fear, I think, is what the trend is.
Yeah, because I saw on another podcast recently, or somewhat recently, that like I think it was Lana Rhoades. She's a famous ex porn star, and she talked about how they would like come up with fantasies, like her and her partner, and like she was like worried that it would freak her partner out if like, what if I pretend like I'm an animal and I go down on you, and he's like, nah, it's cool. So it's like I feel like
Be
that's
a horse, like whatever.
right.
Like, pony play is a thing in the kink community
Yeah.
too. Be a furry. Like, I think that they're you know, um, without fear, with courage, we're able to say things that we want and find our people and our
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Um,
I-
so like this porn star, like found a partner that she could be transparent, courageous, and reveal something that she might have otherwise concealed with another partner.
yeah, which is awesome.
And that's a match. That's a person that's a match. And that's how you can, like, as you keep revealing, does this person keep saying, yes, I like it, let's keep growing, let's keep doing it? Because that's the definition of long-term relationship satisfaction, growing together towards the same ultimate goal.
Right.
And it's not a failure if you grow apart either.
No,
However,
yeah.
do so consciously. Don't grow apart because you're shoving your truth down and not telling someone you have a threesome fantasy or an octopus fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like people listening to this are gonna be like, "Oh my God, what?" But the people who get it, who understand that, like, it's about sort of being responsive and it's about like being open enough. You don't have to like go dress up as like a cartoon horse or something,
superhero.
or whatever. If that's not your thing, don't do it. But the conversation that we're having is basically like, be open to what your partner or a future partner, or a past partner, even if you're looking back, like what they have going on in their mind and how you can interpret that, and just to be kind of like open. Like, I would love to have someone who practices like the furry thing on the show, just because I have so many questions.
Yeah.
I think it would be really, really,
Yeah,
really
I think
cool to like,
I think
yeah.
that there are opportunities for it once, you find this like following. I think there are opportunities to have these conversations. And what you brought up was so important for those who are listening. It's like your current partner, future, past. Instead of judging, instead of hearing their fantasy and judging it, take that same effort that you put into judging, kind of redirect it into curiosity,
Yeah.
asking more questions. And then if you want to even transform it to something else, reveal yourself. Don't spend the time judging. It's so simple and basic and almost childlike to judge without stopping, pausing, discerning, and trying to lead with curiosity. For me, I really like mature centered adult conversations where we try to lead with curiosity and openness, integrity, and revealing without concealing who we authentically are.
Yeah, I love that. Revealing without concealing. Wow. Huge. Another one. Another one. Another one. I think it's like just insanely important to do that. And I also, you say this thing in your videos quite a bit, actually. It's don't yuck someone else's yum, right? So like,
Yes.
which is huge, right? So if you can jump into that, because I hear it a lot in your videos, and if you could expand on that and really drive that fucking thing home, because I think what we're getting at is that it's easy to judge, right? And
So simple. And we were probably taught it. So it's not like
right,
you didn't inherit this. It's not that. It's just the most basic and mindless thing you could do. I want us to be better
right,
as people. I want us to stop, take a breath, observe your reactions, Like, pull back and kind of be like, what did happen? Okay, this person's trying to share with me. Like, I'm going somewhere else. I'm about to like judge. The whole point is this person's trying to share with me. So now my job is like to proceed with that. I'm in a conversation. I'm not talking to
Right.
myself all of a sudden. So going to judgment is the easiest thing we could do. It's what we've been taught to do, and it gets us not very far. It doesn't give us intimacy, it doesn't give us pleasure. Leading with curiosity, discovery, willingness, compassion. That gives us the type of conversations and the type of sex and the type of just like day-to-day community. Like, you get to meet your people a lot faster when you're not just saying things to fit in, right? You meet your people, your vampires, your daywalkers by being who you are and not just like portraying what you think other people want.
Yeah, and that's why when you say don't yuck someone else's yum, like and
Exactly.
it's very important. And I challenge like anybody listening to this right now, because I had to do it like, I don't know, years ago when I learned this little trick, but like your brain is gonna immediately, whether you see someone that's doing worse than you, doing better than you, or you see someone that has a what you think is a crazy sexual fantasy or whatever, your brain's automatically going to judge that person. That's fine, because that's what your brain does. That's what you were taught to do. But
Just what it does.
what I found is that when I acknowledge that judgment and say consciously back to it, no, fuck it, we're not doing that. And I shut it down, I feel so much more powerful just in that moment. So I feel
It's
like
empowering to stop that pause.
right.
Polyvagal pause is what it actually is in the body. That pause is empowering. Like, you're finding who you are in the pause instead of just like yucking. It's so easy to yuck. And it's like, okay, you're 5 years old. It's not bad
Right.
or wrong. It's just you're being five. Like, ew, yuck, gross. I've said all those things. I promise. I get it. I have a child part
Yeah.
of me. It's a lot more connective, tender, empowering to be like, let me pause and connect. How interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's your yum. Since when? When did that begin? Right? Just to be curious.
Yeah.
So all of us have done the yucking thing. That's why I say it so much. I say it to myself too. Like, don't lead with yuck. It could be a
Yeah.
part of you. However, that's not how you get the relationships, connections, and the type of world you want. So I remind myself of that multiple times a day.
Yeah, and when you acknowledge that you are judging someone and you're like, no, fuck it, we're not doing that. You literally feel like you're taking your life back from this like bullshit system that's been sort of programmed into you, right? So if you could take that
Yes.
energy, because it gives you like a burst of energy. If you take that energy into like your relationships, your sex, your BDSM parties, your escort service with your whatever situation you're in, if you can take that into it, that non-judgmental, no, this is sort of my life, not what I was told it was going to be by someone. It's not their life, like it's mine. I think that's a huge step, like to becoming sort of
That's
like
huge.
just like having more pleasure and like having a better understanding of like how life works. And it just
I agree. That pausing and stopping before you do what you've always done. The skill set is to learn a second and third response, not just do what you've always done to get the results you've always gotten. So,
right.
exactly what you're saying, Dustin.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. So your videos, you said that they come out every Wednesday, right?
Wednesdays, yes.
Yeah.
My
And
YouTube channel's The Sex Healer. Right now, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I like to follow their algorithms that tell me when my videos ought to come out, though. But right now, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard is apparently when my viewers most watch.
yeah, and some of the topics that you've done recently, semi recently, are like Daddy Little, How to make
Shibari, how to make a scene.
yeah, how to make a woman squirt was another one
Yeah.
that you did.
Yeah. Mouth gags I did recently, and people are like, "We want to see you in a gag." I was like, all right, give the people what they want. So I'll have to film for that. I haven't filmed it yet, but I had over 5 people ask. I was like, really? Okay. I could do a more advanced one because I did like a basic one. I didn't put bondage on anyone. I didn't have a demo bottom or
Yeah,
someone with me. I was just me. I was like, I could find someone who wants to get gagged by me or someone who wants to put a gag on me,
sure.
probably to make the people happy because if that's their yum, I'm not going to yuck it. And I want to know. I want to know, is that a place I want to go? And if I do the scene and I'm like, I don't like this, I'll never
Yeah,
do it again.
yeah,
However, I'm going to try it. Why not?
yeah. No, fucking that's awesome. So people were in the comments like immediately.
People were in the comments. Yeah. They like how you were in the DMs. They were DMing, they were commenting. We want it in your mouth. We want to see it on someone. I was like, I like to make people happy. Okay. I aim to please. Okay. I'll try it. We'll see what happens.
So coming soon. There's a
Coming soon.
yeah, a
Coming
new video.
soon.
New video. How do you choose the topics? Is it something?
Great question. People ask, like in session, or people DM me who can't like afford to go to therapy or don't have insurance or whatever. They'll say, I really have this one specific question. Here's my situation. Usually that's how I find it. So my assistant reads all those messages and then will throw it to me and say, hey, can you do videos on these things? So it comes from, I also own a group private practice with 7 therapists that work for me. So they're clients too. It's not just my clients or my followers. Like we have this whole web of life coaching and therapy. So a bunch of different types of people will ask questions. Right now, it's been a lot of my folks, the kinky types of
Right.
questions. However, we've gone through like really professional things like about trauma and degrees, like how do you become a sex therapist in the United States, like boring stuff. We've done tantra. We're in a very kinky, freaky episode. I guess this is what happens during COVID. Everyone's getting freakier. So are my videos.
No, yeah, that's great. Because I think obviously if they're asking, when you really learn who you are and who the people around you are when you're alone, right? So if we're all alone and we're acting this way, guess what? This is how we are. You know,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
So has there been a video that really like to you? Like I noticed like the how to make a woman squirt video had like it was definitely more views on that one than some of the other ones. With that topic, was that something that you sort of like just jumped right in and went from like, you know, what you could learn from the internet, your personal experience, your clinical experience, or was it something where you kind of like, you know, pulled your people, your audience and put it together that way? Because I feel like with that topic, everyone's like, oh, women can't squirt. It's not really squirt. It's pee. It's this. It's da 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 da. It's like all these like shut the fuck. Like stop.
Stop.
So yeah. So with that video, I felt like it was super well done. Right. Again, you're straight to the point. You got them there. You're not. You know. You're gonna give them what they need. Get them out of there. Get them back to the practicing.
Go. Don't keep watching
yeah.
the video. Go.
Because with
Go
a lot
do
of
it now.
other videos like that, they go on forever. They debate whether it's real or it's not. It's like, man, that's not even the
I don't
important
think
part.
anyone wants to know that, right? And I think that the reason that video became popular, so I noticed a trend like female sexuality and male sexuality. Maybe it's because I wrote a book on female sexuality. Maybe it's because I've done a lot of blogs on male sexuality. Something about those two topics, like, really have an interesting following for.
Yeah,
Like all
yeah.
over the world, like those two topics are often bigger. Someone specifically asked me about mouth gags, so that's where the mouth gag thing came from. And what I would say about the squirting video, though, is because I really value Betty Dotson, and Betty Dotson talked a lot about female ejaculation. She did work on cadavers, like found the internal clitoris, and kind of understood I think that's why I have a following on things like squirting or mouth gags, because they go right off of what are things to do within female or male sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if someone is trying to learn how to make your partner squirt or make yourself squirt, right? Go watch that video.
It's really difficult to do. It's really difficult to make yourself squirt. I've had so many people try over the decade that I've been doing this work. And I used to sell sex toys. So I've been talking about squirting even before I was a sex therapist. So I used to sell sex toys to help me pay for graduate school. And teaching a bunch of people how to use sex toys, how to help people with squirting. Like, that's probably where a lot of the comfort and the short duration came from, like watching people's attention spans live. How long are they going to stay on a computer? Probably around the same amount of time. So
Yeah, and I think, some people not everybody's the same. So like some people squirt way easier than somebody else who doesn't.
Everyone's bodies are different. Yeah, some people have little tiny clitoral hoods. Some people have large ones so they can pierce it easier. And people are like, well, you have to do that. You have to get a piercing. But not everyone's anatomy looks the same. You don't have to do anything. Like, let people choose what they want to do.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think
squirting, if it's a little bit, a lot, if you can't do it yet, like, there's no shame in it.
Yeah.
It's just shameful if you don't get to try anything because you're living in fear and paralyzed by it. Like, that is the only thing I would call shameful. Trying things and it doesn't work, or you don't squirt as much as you saw in porn, like, whatever. Porn is sex for money and entertainment. It's not real people sex.
Yeah, I mean, those people are like, trained professionals that are doing it for the entertainment value. Porn is wonderful.
And there's hours
great.
of prep work. Hours of prep work, especially like in a squirting scene. Like, it's not all going to be real. They're going to like find a way to douche and make it look different. So because it's a movie and we want to be entertained, it's a movie.
Yeah. And I think too, like, there's like this shame factor, this like a lot of women, from what I'm understanding, like people that I've talked to, like almost feel like embarrassed just to come, or embarrassed like to have an orgasm and whatever. So I can only imagine like they'd be embarrassed like to squirt, or like, I think, why is it that we as a culture sort of like put our women like down, like we keep them like we make their orgasm, their pleasure, squirting or not. Why do we associate and like keep like placing this shame on women, and how can we fucking stop it?
I think that people are trying to stop it. I think that a bunch of women in the world who are empowered with careers and also sexually turned on is a scary world for a bunch of people. So, like, let's just keep the status quo where we don't question anything. We just do what we've been passed down to do. Make fun of women and how they smell, like not care about their orgasms, tell them that they look deformed in their labia. Like, let's just keep doing what we've always done. No one thinks, no one stops, no one takes that pause to think about the impact it's going to have. So it's like really back to that skill set again. You can choose to do more effort and to be better and more impeccable in your word. But it's a lot easier to just make fun of people. Locker room talk is acceptable, openly laughed at. So, like, people would rather get the joke than change the system. And it's like, I think we could change the system while joking. So, why can't we do both?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Fuck the status quo.
I think that's what we are doing. Actually, that's why you're doing this.
Yeah, this is not a status quo show. So, and you've started us off like on the exact right path, and I think you're incredible, and thank you so much for being here on the first episode.
Woohoo.
Yeah, no, you're awesome.
It's been so great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. I hope that I can have you back actually to discuss some more stuff.
Yes, you know where to stalk me now.
Yeah, now I know. Awesome. Amanda Pasciucco, the sex healer. Where can people find you before I let you?
YouTube, The Sex Healer, Instagram, Amanda Pasciucco. Just honestly, if you Google Amanda Pasciucco, I'm like the first 5 pages. You can find me. Hard to contact me, easy to find.
Go watch her videos and follow her on Instagram. She's awesome. Thank you so much for being here and getting us started.
Thank
See
you.
you soon. Huge thanks to Amanda Pasciucco for starting us off right. I couldn't have asked for a better first guest. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation and you're ready for some craziness. And listen, if you're feeling like you enjoyed that first episode, if you're feeling like you can't wait for the second episode, you can show some love to the show. If you're listening to this on platforms like Apple, Spotify, you can subscribe. You could become a subscriber. You could leave a review. That would be fucking awesome. If you're watching on YouTube, hi, how are you? You can subscribe there too. You could like the video. You could leave a comment. You could also DM me anytime on Instagram. You can slide into my DMs on Twitter. And get excited because I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter @SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin @Dustin Rybka.